Hello, dear ones. What do you think is going on out in the world? If you stop for a moment and don't get too hooked in, pulled in, identified, upset with what's actually happening there, what if we all just take a step back and just look at it from that a little more of a distance where we are not fully engaged in it, if that's possible. If you are too emotionally engaged and attached or identified, it's easier said than done, what I'm asking you to do. So just do your best and see if you could take a step back and maybe ask that question, what is going on here? What is going on here? Why does everything look so crazy out there? Of course, if you're in nature, it's a very different story. But if you look at the world situation, say, what is going on here? How how can you make sense out of so much chaos and confusion and hatred and division? How do we make sense out of that? How do we make space for that without grasping onto it? Maybe a big order for some people, but I think it's an important question that we can ask, because you will start seeing things very differently when you take just that one step or maybe 100 steps back, however much you can. Because every time you take a step back from this, you take a step back and you notice, like, what is this? What am I doing? Why am I putting all my energy into fighting something that's happening out there? What good does it do? So that's one way of start figuring out, how to make sense out of it or how to get an understanding. And you might see that your fist battling, fighting, judging, blaming, whatever, is simply part of what is happening out there. Out there. It is not separate from it. You may think that you're here and you're kind of, you know what's going on, right? Yeah, they're all crazy and I should just do this and that and the other. But all that is all mind stuff. And it is the same as what you are observing. So when you take that step back and when you see your own way of engaging with it, you will see how your energy is feeding it. And the result you want is not coming from adding more of what you do not want. When I take a step back, I kind of live as a step back, maybe many. That's been my practice for so long. I'll tell you what I see. I see that love is breaking apart and bringing up to the surface everything that is unlike itself, anything that is not love. That's what I see from here. You may or may not agree with me. I never expect anybody to agree, but if there's a resonance, it might help you just see the bigger picture of what's happening, because when you're in the midst of the battle and the chaos, it's very hard to see what is going on besides, this tiny little thing that you're engaged in. Even though it may affect the whole world, it may not look so small when you're in it. But when you take that step back, to me, there's the love is just coming out inside of me in the world, inside of so many people. But if you are not aware of that, that this love that's breaking through and breaking up anything not like itself, anything unlike itself, then there is more cooperation with it. You don't want to fight it then. It's like, oh, yeah, this is not love either. I better let that come to the surface and be purified and be softened and be let it move through us. That's when you have a very different perspective of what is going on than, right here in the middle of it, in the minutia of it all, where there's all these emotions and they're all stuck in there and they want to, they want to put out their opinions and their aggressions and whatever it is. Fine, we have lived in that minutia for a long, long time. So it's a habit, it's just a pattern, it's a programming. But as things are evolving and as more and more people are waking up to what is going on, inside and out, it's the same thing. It's the same thing. That's why it's so important that we let ourselves be purified by the energies that are arising and are showing us our stuff, our issues, our emotions, our attachments, our identities. When that shows up, and if you have done some of the work, the inner work, that you're able to be present with it, it's like it comes up. Normally, you might get lost in it, right? And you're battling it and you're, blaming. That's the old paradigm. That's what we have lived through for a long time. But if you have it in you to just, you're here and then take a breath and take a step back, create a little space around your experience. That's what's called mindfulness, right? You become mindful of what is actually going on. And then you have this space here. And then you can, with practice, you will learn to not go in and touch it and fight with it or fix it or get rid of it. You are the space now, and you allow whatever is coming up inside of you, you allow it to be released, to be purified, to be softened, to be healed, whatever it is, but you're not doing it. You are now stepping out of that dimension, the old paradigm, and you're stepping into a newer, more higher frequency dimension, which knows exactly how to deal with these issues, our stuff. So you just learn to just, in a way, hold it here and allow it. You breathe into the experience of it. You breathe into the discomfort of it. You breathe into the contractions. You just do your best to stay here so that whatever is here can just, there's more space created around it. And that's how it softens. And eventually it will just dissolve back into the love that it already is and always was. The reason it felt like it was different was because we were contracting around it and not seeing what is actually here. I hope that makes sense. So the more the higher frequencies are coming in, and you may also feel that because it's been pretty strong for a while where, everybody's stuff is coming up. And if you haven't learned how to be present with it, you might go right back into the matrix, which many people do now, and start a fight, or a righteousness movement or whatever it is. But if you have some space around it, you walk out, just you're in a space of allowing, not necessarily accepting. Accepting sometimes there can still be a holding on to it. At least that's how I see it. Some people have a different perception of those two words, but for me, it's creating a space of allowing. where everything can just unfold. And it's the contractions that start softening. And then it's like, I've talked about the frozen waves, frozen water drops. And when we just create a space, it's almost like we create a warmth around it instead of this cold resistance. We create a warm space, and all these frozen waves and frozen droplets, they soften, and they simply, the form is just melting away back into the flow of just water, love, ocean. So that's why what is happening in the world is not a bad thing. I know a lot of bad things are happening. I know, I do know that. I'm not in denial, but I'm not attaching to it anymore and letting it decide my inner experience. I let my inner experience decide how I respond, how I move through the world, because I know that the inner love that we all are is simply breaking up anything unlike itself, and that is messy. My goodness, is it messy? It is so messy, and it's so easy to, want to go out and try and do something about it. Yeah, do that, but do it from that inner movement. So you're not going out there with the contraction of the matrix, adding more to the matrix. You're going there with a much higher frequency. And you know that whatever stuff comes up in you is just here to be purified. So you you make yourself available. You can say, yeah, this too. Yes, this too. So when stuff comes up that you normally try and get rid of, then you take a breath, and it's like you're offering it up to the divine. That's all. But it's a felt sense. It's not a mind thing. It's not like, oh yeah, you take it. No, because it's an energetic thing that's happening in your body. So you just start practicing, just allowing it to be here. And then you just stay there. You just hang out there. And but you offer it up. It's like, okay, yeah, I'm ready to let this go too. I'm ready to let this contraction, this anger, this whatever it is, to also be dissolved and melt back into the ocean of love. I'm ready to let these parts of me that are not love yet become love. And I don't know how to do that. So I am just willing to offer it up. Let's do that. Thank you.